Okay, we're just getting ourselves set up here. And check, we'll see when we are live. Sorry if there's feedback here. We're going to check this. Hello, hello. All right. Okay, can't hear myself, so wonderful. Okay, I've got a couple things rolling on that slideshow. I am actually in the VR headset right now, so I'm going to show you what we've got going on right here. All right, so we got Monster and Duck. I threw these together a week or two ago. I was just playing around with this program, Gravity Sketch. And so anyway, I got this pulled up right now. I tonight I'm thinking about doing a different project. I wanted to just get things loaded up. But I'm going to pull up one of the Fantastic Tanks. I'm going to show you some of the reference. If I can manage that with the VR headset here, I might have a difficult time figuring out how to get that over. You know what? Give me 1 second. Going back to the slideshow. And let me pull up the file here. Nope. There we go. I just got this. I have this hidden while I'm looking through the file manager here. And I think this is the file we want. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks. I gotta put a bunch of work down in some cabinets down in the down at the college. Local college here is Houghton College. All right, I'm gonna open up this view again. All right, so here is the sea tank, and see, we got that little starfish up there, little periscope up top here, and the wheel here. So this I've got pretty well blocked out. I've got these as separate details in here, and I need to get this into a more complete design. So I need to figure out how is this up here going to attach to the base. I already have an attachment, like a prefab built, so it's like a keyed ring. So no problems there. It's just a matter of how it's going to rotate. And then the rest of it's just going to be kind of the final design before prepping this for cut up to be printed, 3D printed. Okay, so here's a model that's a little bit farther along. And I thought I would show you that because, well, it's more interesting than following from the beginning. Maybe we'll start a new one after this. I've already pulled this model into ZBrush and started to play with it. And there are a few technical things that hopefully we won't get bogged down with too much tonight. But there are some things that Gravity Sketch is great for. Then there are a couple others that when it comes to good geometry, there are better methods than others. Well, but I won't bore you to death with all of that. But namely this piece right here, I made it the quick and dirty way with a tool in Gravity Sketch. But as you can see, it's got a hole in the bottom there. There's some probably some geometry that's jammed up together. So when I actually bring this into onto the PC on more traditional software, a lot of those problems are going to show up. They look fine in here, but those can just be little things that kind of pile up down the road. It could be a problem. Okay, so generally speaking, when I build these, I build them with a couple different layer stacks. So let me just change something real quick here. That's probably good right there. Okay. Now I got the layer stack over here. I can move this around. I really enjoy this workspace in VR. It's totally handy. All right, so it's been a while since I've dug through this model, but so we've got some of the details are on a separate layer here. Sail is separate. Um, Typically, I would separate anything that's flat like this because we're going to give that thickness in a different application. But actually, they added an update to Gravity Sketch. So if I go to the sail, I should be able to edit this. And where's my menu? Right here. I think I have to convert this to a subdivision. Right now it's a NURBS. And so that's going to edit the geometry a little bit because subdivision works differently than NURBS. And we tried to add an edge loop in there to make that a little tighter. Okay, so anyway, we bring this down. Make sure our geo didn't get too warped with the changes that we made there. And then we do thicken offset. Okay, I'm going to do this right here. And the nice thing with this is that it's kind of a live thing. So go ahead and accept that. It appears with that thickness, but I can go back and edit that at any time. And I'm editing it as a plane and not as full geometry. So if I want to get these lined up, to go on those chains. Now, again, I'm going to print this. That's the plan, at least. And so there are a lot of changes that will have to be made, just to technically pull this off. The sail's a little bit ambitious for 3D printing, but, well, that's the name of the game. I'm going to break this, try to get this chain off here. There's a lot of geometry there. There we go. So those chains are all connected still. Oops, let's see, get these disconnected from each other. All right. And I want to, basically what I'm doing here is, I can use these as a single chain link, or I can grab a group of them and group them together. So we're doing that right now. So if I can grab that, make that a group. See that turn purple, and now I can adjust that and just get that to have a more natural look, as it's pulling, this sail away here. And maybe we'll droop this down a little bit here. And my apologies if this is a little bit hard to follow. It's easy for me in the headset to see what's going on. And also I'm, the one doing this, so I'm anticipating my movement. Let me know in the chat if this is difficult to follow, and we could potentially do something else if that's a problem. Okay, so as I was saying, I typically in the layer stack I would keep these separate because later I can go and add thickness to those. Now we can add the thickness right in here. Shapes like this here, you can see that this is if I go to edit this, it's got it's a NURBS shape, and it's got all these different control points and so forth. And I could harden up an edge or crease it or whatever. But I typically leave the ends open. You can close them here, but it does weird stuff. It wants to close it a different way than I want it to be closed. There are ways to snap it together. I think if I go into convert it to a subdivision, I can pull these together. But really the easy thing to do would be to bring this into ZBrush and just close the holes and call it a day. So, a couple different things we could do here. So I've got down here, actually that looks like these are separate pieces of geometry. Maybe no, it might just be the shader doing that. Now I've got like these tentacles coming out here. We've got the suckers here on the treads. And so I kind of want to play with this a little bit. This is something where, we got it roughed in. And let's see how much of that. Okay, so that's the base. That's the body. That's the conch shell. Back of the ship. Oh, there's more layers down here. Ooh. Yeah, it's all the little details on there. Mid detail, that must be it. Yeah, all these little suckers and so forth here. So one of the things I'm thinking is I have this reference. I'd like to share it, but I can't really figure out how to set up my screen to do that. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. To be able to pull the reference over so you can see it. You can't see it here on the screen, but actually behind this tank, I have a squid pulled up that I can see. So anyway, in that reference, actually it's an octopus, but in that reference, I've got little details like this. And I'm actually going to just do a new layer. So I'm going to duplicate this one, which I think we just do trigger, pull it out. Okay, so grab that one right there. They're all mirrored on that axis. Okay, but I'm just going to do a new layer here. And we'll call this, we'll just call it suckers 2, because we already have suckers, but we want to move them. We want them more different. Okay, so I'm going to grab that, put it into that layer, and then hide the previous one. Okay, so we've got these guys right here. So now, in my reference, it's interesting how they kind of start to squish together and stuff when they kind of get into this compression area down here. So I want to play with that. So I think in the previous version I had them like staggered, and I wanted some kind of randomness to it, but I just want to work on that compression down here. Okay, and then these have this angle here, so we can kind of change the angle, make some kind of interesting shapes here. Let's see. We can increase the strength too, if we want, and add new points in if we want to, edit it like so. So we could have this one like maybe pressed up against another one like this. And then we'll edit this one so that it's, and I think the more interactions between the parts that we show, the more interesting this will be. It's interesting, the reference is actually got like kind of Nature's always more random than you would expect. Let's get like two that come together like this, and then one that comes off the side like that. Man, sorry for the monotone voice tonight. I just got this. It's just in me right now. A really very strange day. Like just uh, hit a wall around 4:30 or so. Just sleepy. Okay, and this is our base, so we'll save that one. We'll just like put it up here where it's. But we'll edit the others. Maybe we'll have this, a little more round on the top. Comes to a point right there. I think you'd kind of see this if it were like squished up against glass or something. I think that's kind of what's going on in the reference. So maybe if we do that down here. Okay. All right, I gotta get this a little closer so I can read the chat. You can't, unfortunately, you can't see it, but it is right here. Maybe I'll put it down below because I'm not usually. Where should we put this? Right there. Like the randomness adds more movement. Loving the VR. Yeah, welcome everybody. Sorry again. I can pull this up over here. You can't see it, but I can pull up the chat and all that stuff. I mean, I guess it's kind of a good thing that I'm able to see all that stuff and I don't have to, hide it on the other screen or something like that. But it is weird to be talking about something that you can't, and then I'm like just looking off in space. But anyway, yeah, I am. I'm digging it. This model, I think, is to me is really appropriate to be doing in VR. Obviously, I did these. You know, these are just kind of very simplified designs. I think I need to turn this back on. There we go. Very simplified designs for the kind of the turtle shell idea. So they're, what would you say, other than simplified? Like they're just broken down into like a kind of a symbolic shape, and they don't really correspond to what the actual geometry should look like. So I think I'll come back. I might have a look at that and see if we want to adjust that at all. But oops, I think this will be good enough for tonight to, or maybe not for the whole night, but for now to get these suckers put together. Now, on an actual like octopus, they get large on one end, the end that's near the body, and then the tentacle gets smaller, of course, and so the suckers get a lot smaller. So I might have to play with that. Maybe in the back here, that's more compressed, and then up here it's wider. So um, maybe we can do that here, and maybe if we just I don't want to get too lazy too early, but it is the beauty of working in these kind of formats is that you can really quickly copy geometry and get the whole thing built up. Now, at this point, though, I'm looking to get more cleaner, detailed and cleaner geometry. Now, this is definitely less simplified than the other version. You know, the other one I spread them out. They're kind of actually, but now that I see them side by side, it's like this has just such a uniformity to it. It's kind of boring. And I think once we really fill this out, it's going to have that tank tread feeling. I can feel it. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. All right, let's grab these guys. Go down here. Make them just a little bit smaller. This is kind of a strange view. I like this geo, you know, the way these all kind of squish together. And we'll adjust them here. Sorry if you can't see this. It is very much a strange view. And this, I'll have to flatten this all out because this is the bottom of the tank. In fact, I may even take this. And that's got to be smaller. Kind of pancaked that out, didn't we? That geometry is getting broken in there, so I want to be careful of that. Okay. The other thing too is we can increase the size of these, you know, so that they get kind of fatter on one side or smaller, thinner on the other, you know. So like here, let's see. This, for example, we might squish that down a little bit there. Hmm. These guys are getting that angles a little off there. Sorry, this is slower than I thought it would be. I picked the boring job. Then I should have done something more energetic, enthusiastic. But no, we're just gonna clean up some geometry. It could be worse, It could be. I mean, we're still designing here. We're just trying to make this design a little better. We could be actually struggling through making some bad geometry work. That would be a lot more fun, wouldn't it? Okay. Of course, there are probably 3D modelers out there thinking, that is exactly what you're doing right now. Okay, let's take these and duplicate them. We'll just flip them around so that we hopefully can get away with the repetition a little bit more. And then once it comes around this curve here, I think that's where we're going to start to separate them, like spread them out a little more so that they have more of a curvature to them. Let's see, this one's got a weird, that shape is not really representative of what's going on there. So it should be kind of rounded here and then kind of pointy here, something like that. That's like our default one there. So we'll just pull that one off to the side so that then we can really design these other ones out where we want. All right, then once we kind of get past that curve, this sharp corner here, I want to start having them squish up against each other again. So I'm just going to make a bunch and then we'll start editing their shape as we go. Maybe we get that smoother curve here, so they kind of fall in line with each other. And I don't want to add too many points. Because I want it to have that smooth, smooth arcs around these edges. Okay, maybe we do here. I liked that shape there. And then we just maybe do the inverse here. That's a little bit much, but maybe we fit it in. Hmm. Might have to grab all of these in order to get that. I might have to move these all closer to each other. Start getting that pinch, because see, now we're getting this inside curve here is going to be an area where we're going to want to do that. This is just ever so slight, so I don't want to get too uh, carried away with that, design, um, the motif of having these all pinched together. I like it, but you kind of want to have these areas of interest, areas of rest. So like all these have that kind of flat, they're squished down, and then I want them to start opening up a little bit more. This even here might just be a little bit too aggressive on that, you know. Um, yeah, maybe move these guys in here. And then I know right in here, we're going to want these kind of that pinched geo. It's kind of the opposite of what's going on here. Um, but I think I'll grab these ones because I'm not using them over there. The repetition won't look as harsh, hopefully. That is the aim. Whoops. I think we'll use that right in there. Maybe we'll pull those guys out. And we'll bring these up like that. And then I think we'll change the profile so that they don't, they look kind of flattened on the top. They don't need that because they're not up against anything. They're just kind of squished against each other. So maybe we'll grab this one. Okay, and that'll be where they start to pinch in against each other. Whoops, pinch in against each other there. Maybe we could have them kind of hanging off the side a little bit if they're getting pinched out. I don't know if I really want them getting much bigger. I kind of like it. I have them getting smaller here, and then it kind of bells back out again here, and so I wanted to see if we could get it, um, get the smooth transition from like large suckers on this end, then they get thinner as they come towards this point, and then they get thicker again. Um, I might be overcomplicating what I'm just trying to accomplish uh, in the moment. So, oh, whoops, looks like we duplicated that geometry somehow. That I think is one of the trickiest things with with this. Maybe that's partly a learning curve, but like I think the big thing is that it's really difficult for me to see it, to tell whether or not I am, you know, making errors like that, and to be able to catch those. So, see, got it right there too. So, the question is, how many times did we do that? Looks like these ones are fine. Kind of like that shape. Okay, and I don't want a direct copy. Um, for that other side there, but do you want to figure out a quicker way of doing it? Okay, so I'm going to grab this geo again here. I'm going to move that one out of the way. Now I've got some of these other layers locked, so they're not uh, being affected by what we're doing with these. I guess kind of the fun thing with this is we can have these squished all up against the geo on the surf, on the body of the tank. Because after all, folks, this still is a tank and not just a sea creature. Inspiring stuff, huh? Just that tone and everything. This is a tank. Hope you enjoy it. Okay. Let's go with, like, this one's obviously got a little bit of squish going on. A lot of these shapes, it's like we've already kind of been down this road before, so just trying to figure out what would look nice in there. I might flip that one around so that it's squishing here, but it's open on the other end. Okay, this one's a little bit crazy. I like the shape, but it's a little aggressive. There we go. I think that's this one, so I might adjust it here so that it's just a little bit cleaner geometry when we export that. Um, I think that these are a little bit too spread out over here. So I get them just a little bit snugged up. All right, and then I think once we finish that out, I'd like to put the little kind of the edge on here. All right, so these I'll delete. Get rid of our little standard guys there. We'll grab a couple of these. I'm going to scale them down a little bit. And then back up again. All right, so how do we want to fit all these guys in? This is the strangest angle. This is this is one case where like VR perhaps is not superior. Uh, just being at this is pretty awkward. Looking up at this thing. Of course, I'm in a chair. I have done a lot of the sculpting standing, but I was tired, so I decided to sit down. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to, I mean, very likely I'll come back in ZBrush and do something to level out this bottom here, because it is pretty important that the tanks sit level when they are printed out. Nobody likes a wobbly model. That said, it might just be there might be a simple solution to that. I want to get it close enough in the design so that we're not compromising the design when we go to make it work technically. As much as possible should be designed to work. Okay. It just occurred to me that that might be a nightmare on the 3D printer. Just all those little suckers and stuff. Suction on a 3D printer. I mean, we'll print it at an angle, but suction certainly can be an issue on 3D printers. All right, let's add in that little ribbing thing. I'll do that as a separate layer. I guess we'll just call it that. I don't really know what it's called. We need some scientists in here to help us out. All right, so we're going to go with that color. Pull up our brush panel. Pretty sure we can do projection with this, but I don't think we could try it. So in project mode, so I'm going to do this diamond shape. In this mode, we'd be painting right on top of here. It looks like it's ignoring locked layers. So let's lock that. Lock that. And I think we're just going with that one. Sketch. All right, so then we're just going to draw on top of that. We'll see. I don't really like project mode. I think it has problems. And I typically like to go with point mode here. Let me get that closer so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, so point mode lets you, make a point, you move around. So it doesn't get all your hand wobbling around, that sort of thing. And you have much more control over the geometry this way, because if you're going in like a mixed input, is basically like freehand, you're just moving wherever. And that's good, but like it has to smooth that out a little bit. It has to figure out like when you actually meant to like make a sharp curve versus a, I mean, it's pretty good. It's pretty good, but it's not perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna show you. So we can do, we got ribbing here. So we'll do freehand mode. And you can see like it's got to decide when to make a break away from what I'm trying to do. The other problem is, see, now I'm getting away from myself. And I've really got to reach, like physically got to reach. And I could come all the way back here. Again, but see, I'm going back and forth like that. It's got to try to kind of decide what, it's trying to figure out what I want it to do. And I think it does a pretty good job. But it's not perfect. And I think it's easier for me to get it on the first go. The nice thing too, though, with this is we can edit this later, right? So we can come back in and change the contour. We can change the, what shape it's utilizing here. Okay. And then we can close up the end too, which is nice. We can have that just loop together. Okay, so not great. That would be fine for a sketch. But let's do another layer here. We'll call this ribbing 2. Okay, and then this one we could do in point mode. We'll hide the other one. And here, I liked what this was doing with that more rounded version. But here we can make a point. We have much more control. Now it's going to be a lot longer, but the nice thing is I can also move the model around and not break, the work that I'm doing. And I'm going to try to have these, more of those little curve breaks happen at the corners because that seems to make more sense to me. All right, and then I can close it up. I'll just edit it, bring these together. I can close that up. Make sure all of our arrows are pointing the same direction in this case, or we can kind of point them in or out to kind of get to have it match the contour. Okay. And then in here, it's really going to matter that these are, unique per point so that we get this geometry nice and clean. Cleaner, at least. It's still going to be a little messy once we get it in. Um, to our other editing program. But I'll probably add some more points in here, um, to get these more interesting. And it's just a matter of, clicking them in when you're in edit mode. I think part of what's nice about sketching, freehanding it, is that you don't lose the kind of the spontaneity of it, which is important. Really, that is the reason that we're using Gravity Sketch for a lot of these models, particularly this one with the all the organic shapes that need to be made. I want it to have that um, loose organic feel to it. I don't like this looping down like that. I think it um, loses the continuity with the form. So I'm going to try to get that matched up. And I think we can erase points. Just, delete it. So that would give us a much smoother uh, arc that follows that. And we just kind of need to adjust it so that it's not too linear. I don't know, we might put like a little joggle in there. It might be too much. There's kind of a uniformity there. If you look at that, you go do 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 do. You know, so um, something to think about when you're designing. That I've said this over and over and over, but like we're kind of bad at making things random. Oops, and you got to look for that stuff. Make sure you're not doing it too much. What just happened there? There we go. You know what? We got to mirror that. Just go in here, go to mirrored geo. There it is on the other side. I can change this texture here. We can also change the lighting so that this shows up a little more. I did the cartoon shader because it just seems like a cartoony kind of design. Now there's a lot of detail going on in here. So first, let me go ahead and change that color. So we'll just go with a basic material. I guess I locked a bunch of stuff, didn't I? Gotta unlock all that. Okay, so that's our basic shader, so that's our model. Basic material, rather. It's probably a cleaner way to look at it. It's missing some geo because we, see, we took this little mid-detail texture, or layer, and it's got these lumps in it. So let's go ahead and make a new layer. Go this shell mid. Move that up to here. So then, what do we got here? We got all this other stuff here. Oh, by the way, there's all the reference material. You can pull it into the 3D space, you know. So when I sketched this out initially, I had these references here, so I could compare it to other tanks. I could compare it to, you know, my sketch and the illustration over here. And I don't know, this is kind of an earlier version before I really started changing things, but I don't know if this one is scaled exactly. You know, later I figured out how to do an exact measurement so that we can get everything scaled to what it will be. That's the body right there. And we'll lock the conch shell. Okay, so now I think we can grab all those. and move them into, what did we make? Shell mid. So just drop them into there. You know, it looks like we're pulling them away, but we're really not. Once we drop them into the layer, they forgive us. Of course, it looks like we're getting all these little swirls and stuff too. So we'll go solo on that layer. Yep, we're pulling in the details. I think that's high detail. Turret detail. Mid detail. Nope. Well, oh well. We can sort some of that stuff out later if we need to. All right, so these swirls, what do we want to do with you? So you can see, if I just delete these, it starts to look a little bit bland, but you know, we need areas of interest and areas of rest. And now that we've added all this detail with these suckers, that's a lot going on there, right? And so I think we do need to simplify these. Let's see how I made these. I think, yeah, I think that's just like a stroke. So I'll probably do these a different way this time. Even like these strips here. So I did like an enclosed, let's see, body enclosed right here. I think I started with this. No. This. Okay, so hide that. Okay, so this is our sketch. And I just took and just kind of drew out all these little ribs here to get the contour of what I wanted. But, you know, if we get in here, you can see that's not ideal. Okay, so then, at least not for a finished model. Then I brought in this enclosed shape here, which looks like it needs a little bit of love, but basically this is a NURBS. It may have been subdivided, and then it gets linked together in the center. Yeah, so there's a little bit of silliness going on here as far as the geometry, you know, because this doesn't really link up to anything. What if I can delete? Yeah, if I delete it, then we have problems. Okay, is all that lined up? You know, like in here, this is pretty rough geo. This over. And it's partly just the way, well, it's not just partly, it is the way that these are merged together. You know, these edge loops aren't, they're not proper edge loops there. So when you have a bunch of control points, well, it's two things, I think. You have a bunch of control points that you want to utilize to get a certain form, and then when it comes to sewing it back together, then you have all these extra control points that are necessary to complete the edge loop, but then they don't, they're not necessary for stitching this all together at this point. So, you know, ideally this loop would go up and all the way around rather than coming up and tying in there. But again, this gravity sketch, as the name suggests, you can probably get away with considering it a sketch and then building out good geo later. That's what we tell ourselves, at least. So anyway, I bring that sketch back in, and for printing purposes, this will actually work pretty well. Won't be too much of a problem. You can get away with jamming a lot of geo together in printing, which is probably gives people heartburn, but it's nice as just a quick iterative tool for prototyping ideas. So I'm going to try to get this to match the geo just a little bit better. It's interesting to see kind of how it passes through that plane and what that's going to do for us for printing it. Got to be careful with moving too many control points because then this will happen. Where geometry that you've layered over top of each other then gets it's unhappy with you. All right, so a simplified version of the shell I think we could pull off. I think what we would want to do, we got this, right? Shell mid. And we're going to do shell mid 2. Excuse me. I think it's good to sketch things, to get a good idea of what you want for geo, but then at some point you got to come in and go, okay, how am I going to clean this up? So there are a couple tools that we could use here. So I'm tempted to jump into this surface tool. Let me pull this up to the camera so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, so this surface tool here, this will let us just drag out a ribbon. I'll give you an example of it here. So we're just kind of making a surface. And this is, I think, my favorite tool in Gravity Sketch in VR. Now, it's a lot cleaner if you do this point mode, just like with the other one. Where you have, maybe you start here and then you decide where you want the next point to be. Right. But I do like the freedom of it, just the organic shape of just being able to, turn those control points and get a really organic shape. Okay, so I'm tempted to do them with that. Another option is this volume. And with the volume, you draw and then you kind of build it up however you want. And that might work. I don't think that's going to be particularly clean geometry. It's going to be, um, it's going to have that kind of rounded look that I think we need for this. Let's do that for a sketch, actually. We'll use this tool. We'll sketch it up that way. Um, yeah, so we'll go, let's see here, round. And I think I'll do a couple in that vein of just, you know, kind of a warped hexagonal, because I think that's a good base for a turtle shell. Now I am a little bit afraid to see what kind of mesh comes out of this in ZBrush when it gets exported. But again, going with the sketch, try to keep that lively, um, free-handed kind of look. The thing with this tool is you're not going to do any negative shapes, right? So you're not going to be able to cut back into it. At least not to my knowledge. I don't think there's any way to do that in Gravity Sketch. I think you're dealing with a convex form. Anyway, once we get this blocked in, then we'll see a little bit cleaner, simplified. Get rid of that last one and make it a little more chunky. Maybe even in here we might add that edge. Have to move some of these things back out. I kind of like that. It makes it, it breaks up the textures a little bit. So we get these lines that come in here. And then these blocky shapes up top. The suckers in here. What was our mid detail here? These guys in here. I don't know if I want to maintain that or not. I think there's something needs to be in there to fill that space. But I don't know if that's the answer. It would be kind of neat to have like, barrels and rigging and stuff, like maybe these tentacles are like grabbing something, kind of neat. Let me grab the light. Let's see. Where is that? It's under. There we go. And so you can lock the light in place so that it just follows you wherever you go, or you can have it be dynamic. So this would be locked, regardless of how we turn the scene, we have the same lighting. I think it's going to be a cool little model. It's going to be like that big. I mean, if this is like the size of my hand, it'd be like that. Puts the all the detail in the suckers in perspective. Right. Okay, so determining how this would fit, with the attachment here, I think two things I'll probably do with this, and this is something where you get to play a little bit. You've got to figure it out technically in order to execute on it, so that the miniature, the figure, works the way that um, the customer expects it to, or that you want it to. But sorry for the chair noises. But you also have some artistic freedom. So I'm just gonna unlock all this stuff, and we'll see what we can do here. Let's hide these sketches. And this would probably be a good time to save. What is that? Oh, save as. Excellent. B. Okay. So now we get a little crazy here, right? I'm going to take all this stuff up here. Right, we got all that. Now we got some mirroring going on there. So what do we want to do about that? Well, we can group it and go up and down, but then the mirroring is going to be an issue. I think we can bake the mirror. So let's go back and then back. Just got to figure out what's mirrored and what is not. Okay, so a lot of it is mirrored. Just go into the edit, and I think we can do bake mirrored. Bake mirrored. Bake mirrored. Bake. Bake, 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 bake. Oh. So basically, anywhere that we see this orange show up on the other side, that's telling us that the orange is the mirrored instance, and the red is the actual item that we're dealing with. Do. Sorry, this is the boring part. The part where Eric cleans up all of his shoddy workmanship. And preps a model for adjustment. And we're doing all this really just so that we can see Um, we got something in there. There's a couple pieces. Really so that we can see how we can orient the turret or trim some parts. In order to get the rotation working correctly. All that is fine. Okay, here's a little shameful moment over here. Instead of modeling this correctly, I just jammed a bunch of geometry in there. Stuff you can get away with in some contexts and definitely cannot in others. All right, I think that's all of the mirrored geometry on this part. So we go up here. Oops. Get out of there. We got everything. Oh, still got some mirrored geo. Oh, there's a staircase. Every step. Amazing, isn't it? That we can just delete so we don't need it. And then some of these details I think were mirrored down in here. Okay. Have we got it now? No. Nope, there's still something. That and okay. All right, we can deal with that. Okay, I think we have it now. I just had to break the geometry, break the mirroring on all that geometry. Make sure we've got it all selected, but not anything underneath. There we go. And then we just hit this little boop button right there. And now we've got this all as one element. And then we're going to do the bottom. Well, I guess we could do the bottom the same way, but you know, I don't want to go through on the stream and bake all of those suckers. That would just be obnoxious. So we'll take this and we'll figure out. So if we put it like here, for example, put it a little farther forward, we put it at the peak there. And then we'll, put our, I'll just block in a cylinder. Let's do it on the sketch layer. We'll do a turn off the end caps. All right, so here's our, oh boy. Here's our connection right here. Just to block it. Okay, so we take this guy and we jam him into that. You know, when he turns, is he going to get a 360? You know, bump into this here, right? So this is where we can tilt this a little bit to get clearance if necessary. And we may need to change the model, of course. You know, might have to bring this area right here. I need to tighten that, bring that up. But my preference would be to have this more dynamic shape. You know, I don't want it completely flat on the bottom. I'd like to be able to swing this around, and maybe we can rotate the cylinder itself, right? So that when you swing up, you know, so you get a little tilt like that. We have to test all of this, you know, to see, is this still an interesting, you know, angle if the tank turns itself around. Actually kind of like that with the more downward direction, you know, but you know, if we angle it like this, is it gonna fall over? Is it gonna look weird? You know, like it might work this way with this thing coming out that side and the sail over there, but you know, what if we're all the way to the other side? You know, is it too much? Is too much going on in the opposite direction? You know, so these are things that we're thinking about, and then the other bit too is like I don't want it to look like we took a really safe route. You know, like the safe thing would just be to, you know, boop, make this taller. You know, so you're up above and you've got some clearance there. You know, but you're on this post, right? And we want it to feel snug, like it all belongs together. You know, and there could be sneaky ways of doing that, right? So we could um, like I showed before, we could tilt it, but then we could also um, have some of that dynamicism. Like we could widen these out a bit, and so you know some of these features might come in underneath on the inside of the tracks, you know, but maybe cut off on the outside here. You know, so these are all things that I have to figure out. I'm not going to do this on the stream, but I'm showing you how some of these things need to be considered in order to finish this off and get a really enjoyable little model to play with. I think originally we had this farther back like this. You know, so again, you know, we would play with these iterations. Like, what's more interesting? Is it more interesting to have it centered? Does it look weird to have this periscope, you know, like off to the side, or should that be straight? You know, and again, you know, we could tilt the whole thing as long as this orientation. If this is perfectly vertical, and then this is perfectly vertical, you know, this stem, we can, of course, rotate everything else, like change this orientation, but as long as these two are straight, that's going to stay, you know, in that vertical orientation. Whether or not we want that, like whether that's important to us, I actually like the dynamicism of tilting it a bit. I like how that, I mean, there may be some poses where it doesn't quite work. You know, have that tilted, but to me, that just gives more gesture to the model. It makes it feel more like a head tilt rather than just a tank turning to blow something away, you know. would be kind of cool to put some cannons on the side of this, you know. Just sketching it, just sketching it. And it has like a special ability or something. It can broadside another tank. Okay. Well, I've been talking about all that technical stuff. At some point, I'm just going to have to do it, which will be sooner than later, but it's not going to be on the stream. So I think we're going to wrap things up here. I don't think we really went as far as we usually go with these streams, but you know, 3D is kind of a different territory for me. I think we'll call it there. So, thank you for joining in tonight. Get one last look at that model. Excuse me. Oh boy. Hope that didn't completely destroy your eardrums. Couldn't hold it back. I tried, but you can't hold in a sneeze. It's just not good. I like these things. You know, it's interesting to see it at different angles. You know what's interesting too? I hadn't realized this, and I apologize on the stream. Is that I set a setting in here where I locked the horizontal tilt, so it doesn't change for me. It changes for you on this preview. You know that it's being streamed, but actually in the goggles, the tilt isn't registering. It's much more steady. Sorry, I gave you an unsteady view on this thing. Okay. All right, that's going to do it for tonight. So thank you for joining in. And next week we'll most likely be back to painting. I just really wanted to do this tonight, so I thought this is what I'm going to do. Well, anyway, thank you for joining in, and have a good night.